Hey gang, welcome back. This video is going to be part 2 in the cleaning and relining of this Kawasaki motorcycle gas tank. In the first video I showed how I use different chemicals and the products from POR or por15, their cleaning system, and also their lining, their liquid liner that you pour in and let it dry. Go back and look at that video if you want some more information on that. But in this video I'm going to go to the next step. And in that case, there's several things that I need to address. One is the fuel float or fuel indicator. This thing has some corrosion on it, so I need to clean that up. The other one is the fuel valve or fuel petcock. When I took this out, of course it was all gummed up, and I'll show you more of this in a minute. But I thought I could save it, and then I dropped it and I broke one of the screen elements. So I just ordered another one, and this came the other day from eBay, and we'll open that up and take a look at that as well. So I'm going to get started on this. Again, I want to clean up the fuel sending unit or the fuel float level, and also the fuel petcock or fuel valve. So let's have a look at it. Now, of course, in the first video I went through all the cleaning process and all the steps all the way to the point of lining it, and I wanted to show you how it looks. I know I showed it in the first video, but now with the POR15 lining the whole thing, I think it's going to be just fine. Again, you needed to have 96 hours of drying time, and I've exceeded that. This has probably been 6 days or so. I can still smell a little bit of the chemicals from this, but it's dry. So I'm going to move on, and I may even set this outside for a little while on the back of my truck and let the sun bake it even more, just as a precaution. In the meantime, I'll work on cleaning up the fuel float, and again go over the replacement piece that I got from eBay. Now this may be just a little bit of an experiment for me, but I am going to put on my safety glasses, and I want to be careful with this. This does still have movement, so I'm sure it's going to be, I hope it's going to be salvageable, but I'm going to use just some little wire brushes and try to remove whatever I can with these. Actually doing better than I thought it would. You know, now I'm curious if that is actually steel or if it's aluminum. It is steel. Of course, I know the rod is steel, and it has its own issues. I think the difficulty with something like this is you really can't paint it. You know, you're not going to put any kind of spray paint because it'll just break down in the gas. So this may be just something that I clean and try to put back together. I suppose I could brush on some por15 tank liner on this rod. That would help some. But I don't know that this is actually rust on this. Well, I guess it is. It's cleaning off very well. So maybe Maybe it's just gunk from the gas. So I've got some rust dissolver, and I thought I had the camera on, but I guess I didn't. So I put some in this cup, and I've been applying it to this rod. I'm going to keep it wet for 15 minutes, and then rinse it all with water. Whatever I can do to get rid of some of this junk that's floating around in here, or that could be floating around later on once I get it back on the tank. So I'll keep that wet for a while and then rinse it off with water. So I rinsed off the other part, and I'll show you that in a minute. But in the meantime, I just wanted to show you this new fuel valve or petcock. So in the other video, I think I commented that when I researched these, I found some on Amazon, but I needed to have the hose fitting facing what would be forward on the gas tank. And the ones that were on Amazon, they said they would fit, but the fitting faced to the rear or aft. And that wouldn't work, obviously, without having to do some sort of modification. So I found this on Amazon. Of course, made in China. It says A-28 new. So I don't know what other numbers I could throw at you, but that's where I found it. Now, looking at these, they look like the same part, really. There's really no difference other than the only difference I can see on the original one. It had this, the filler screen that was a lot higher, let's say, in the tank. So if you compare the length, this one is a lot shorter. Now that comes into play a little bit whenever you're selecting your fuel, because in the on position, it's going to take from the highest point first, and then when you run low, you switch it to reserve. In this case, there's not going to be much of a difference. If you get to the low point, you're right at where you need to be for your reserve. Now, I don't know if there was any advantage or disadvantage for that. I don't know, but that's how it is, and that's what I'm going to use. Now, the other thing that I noticed, the plate with the on/off reserve information, it is on the new one a bit dull, and I don't know if that really is going to matter much. I haven't decided yet if I just want to swap out that plate, because the original one had a little more shine to it, and I'm assuming it would fit, but I don't know for sure yet if I want to take it all apart just to swap that plate. So anyway, just something I'm considering and something to point out whenever you're looking at these. Now, it seems to rotate fine like it's supposed to, so I may just leave it alone. And yeah, there's a little arrow indicator on the replacement handle as there is on the original. And I say that because you can just see, hopefully see, there's a little tiny arrow embossed on there, or in the casting. And what that means is that where the arrow points, that's where your fuel flow is. So in this case, this would be on reserve because the arrow is pointed up. And if I turn it the other way, down, it's pointed to on, which would be normal fuel flow. So I'm going to put this in the neutral position or off, and of course it did come with a nice little new gasket. So I'm going to get the tank back in here, and I'll show you that fuel float. That thing turned out great. I'll show you that in just a minute, and then I'll get this all put back together. There it is. And like I said, all I did was scrub it with those little brushes, put on some of that rust dissolver, and it all cleaned up. Works very, it's very free. There's nothing holding it back. And I can't say that I really got much chemical down in there, I don't know. But I'm hoping that it doesn't affect anything with the electrical, because really this is, I think the term is potentiometer, because you can, by moving it internally, it changes the signal return on the electrical connector. So it gets really complicated, but this should be a very simple, like wire type indicator on the inside. Like it's not an actual electrical connection. All that's on the outside. So anyway, I think it's going to be just fine. I just got to get this gasket back over these prongs, and of course back around the main assembly, and that's it. That's ready to go back on. I'm not going to bother putting any paint or anything on this rod. So now I'm going to see if I can get this float back in. Has to sit that way. No, that went in a lot easier than it came out. And these are 8mm bolts, in case you're wondering. They're bolt heads. You can see I'm going to snug them all down. I'm not going to tighten one, all the way. Now, I will point out this little cover, which I fought with in the first video, just as a reminder. This little vent or drain or whatever that may be faces to the rear of the tank or aft. It just snaps on. And I believe there's a vent hose that connects to that. I think what that's for is if there's any kind of leaks from this unit, it'll work its way out the back and then down through the hose away from the bike. So anyway, so now that that is in, I want to install the fuel valve or the petcock. So they came with the new gasket, so of course I'm going to install that first. Press it down in the channel, and then you want to make sure you have the valve facing out. It would be kind of silly to have it facing in. That would be very counterproductive. So now I'm going to put these bolts in, and these have a 10mm head, but they also have a Phillips screwdriver head in them, and I think that's because you really can't get a socket down in there very easily. So I'm going to use just a DeWalt screw gun just to get them down in faster. And I will point out that I did run the bolts through those holes because of the por15 sealant, would block them up. So I did cycle the bolts through there to make sure that there was nothing blocking the threads. And so now I'll just tighten them up with a wrench. I couldn't tell you what the torque specs are, but I know I don't want to twist them off, that's for sure. And that should do it. Now the only other thing left to install is the vent hose. And this hose goes on this fitting here, which leads up to the fuel filler. It just allows air back into the tank. And if I remember correctly, it was facing to the rear. Get the clamp back on. And that should take care of that. Now the only other thing left to do is put on the gas cap. Now before I install this gas cap, I need to clean off this bit of corrosion here. And again, I'm just going to take a wire brush and work it off. Just to show you how that works, I'm going to get a mask on so I don't get all this stuff in my lungs, but I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Alright, that's all cleaned up, and I got the key out and wanted to check it, make sure, and it seems to function. So now all I have to do is install it. I want to show you something. I think it's kind of hard to tell, but there's a vent hole right here, a little vent tube that, whoops, is on the bottom side of the cap. That actually interacts with this tube, which is part of that air vent system. And if I understand correctly, this little air vent tube allows air through the center of the cap to recover, or let it vent the tank, so when fuel goes away, fuel backs it up, or air backs it up. Just an observation, something you don't want to, just something to know. But yeah, there it is. That's going to be the end of this video, which is really part 2 in the motorcycle gas tank series. If you want to have some more information, go back and check the other video, and you can look at all the chemicals I used and the products of por15 and how I did the process on lining this tank. But this video, I'm done. The next step that needs to happen is I need to put the tank back on the motorcycle and verify that there's no leaks, that it has flow, all those things that are kind of important to a gas tank. And then the next thing, I have to determine the condition of the carburetors, whether it's gummed up or the jets are bad. I don't know, but I'll have to get to that point and look and see. But I can't do that until I have a confirmation of the gas tank and how well it's going to work. So I don't know if I'll do a video or anything on the carburetors or not. I haven't decided, but if I do, you'll know. But anyway, I thank you for watching, and if you would, leave a comment down below, throw a thumbs up on there, subscribe, share, all those cool things that help this channel grow. I want to make this channel as big as I can, and I need your help. So if you can do that, please do so. And until next time, take care of yourselves. I hope this video was useful. If nothing else, I hope it was entertaining. That's going to be the end of this video, which will be part 2 in the gas tank series.
This video is going to end.